Hey guys, it's JEH Unashamed here. Now, I just recently got my 50th coaster credit, and it was Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. By the way, if you don't know what a credit is, it's basically every unique coaster you've ridden, which means I've ridden exactly 50 different roller coasters in my life. Now, last time I ranked all my credits, I had 34. But since then, I have gotten 16 more credits, and now I'm going to be ranking them. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Number 50. We're kicking this off with the Great Pumpkin Coaster at Kings Island. I really don't need to explain much. It's the kittiest of the kitties, as I like to say. It's like 10 feet tall, and it's not smooth at all. I was 8 years old and I thought this was boring, which is bad. Number 49 is this piece of trash. Ah, yes. Gemini at Cedar Point. Oh boy, let me tell you. This may look like a fun ride, but don't be deceived. This ride is the roughest ride I've ever ridden in my life. I was in so much pain, especially during that helix at the end. It really hurt my back and hips, which is not something you want to experience on a roller coaster because it is not fun. So don't ride this if you want to feel good the rest of the day, or if your airtime throws and think this ride is actually good. Number 48 is Sea Dragon at the Columbus Zoo. Yes, a zoo with a roller coaster. This is already a recipe for disaster, unless it's Animal Kingdom. This thing is so old and cheap that they literally have to manually stop the train with a lever for the brakes. I just can't. Aside from that, this ride really isn't that great. It's rough, it's old, and it's exactly what you expect from a zoo. Moving on. Number 47 is the Barnstormer at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. One thing I love about a good coaster is a long, or at least decently long, ride. I just want the ride to last forever. Unless it's Gemini. But this ride, it's literally like 10 seconds long, bro. I mean, come on. This thing is short. Like short. Aside from that, it's not that thrilling at all. I mean, it's a family, such a kiddie coaster, so it's not supposed to be thrilling. But on top of that, it's a Disney ride, and it's barely themed. It's got a little bit, but not a lot. Honestly, the best part about riding this ride last time I rode it was waiting in line for it because we had a great view of the Tron construction. That's pretty bad. Number 46 is Woodstock Express at Kings Island. Oh boy, my very first credit. I gotta give credit to this one because it really got me into coasters. But anyways, as sentimental as it is, it's pretty much just Sea Dragon but better maintained. Old Kid Woody, hills and turns, done, boom. That's Woodstock Express. Number 45 is Blazing Fury at Dollywood. Okay, I used to put this lower, but it is a cool ride. When I say it's a cool ride, I mean it's a cool dark ride. It's literally a dark ride, but then all of a sudden it has a few drops at the end. 3 to be exact. That's all it really is. It's nothing special, so it's down at 45. Number 44 is Flying Ace Aerial Chase at Kings Island. Gosh, we're still in the kiddies. This ride is cool because it's inverted, but it's forceless. By the way, inverted means the train is below the track. Anyways, this ride, it's meh. I mean, I'm sure the kids love it because it's a good ride for what it is, but I'm not ranking these based on, for quote-unquote, what they are. So this one's down here. Number 43 is Cedar Creek Mine Ride at Cedar Point. All I gotta say about this ride is that it's a little family coaster that's old, a little jerky, and very forceless. And somehow someone threw up on this ride while we were waiting in line for it. I'm like, boy, what did you eat to throw up on this ride? I don't know, guys. Number 42 is Pipe Scream at Cedar Point. I actually like this type of ride. Yes, it's a kiddie coaster, but I actually find it to be fun. Definitely a top tier kiddie coaster. It spins and actually makes my stomach drop a little bit. Overall, good ride. But it is a kiddie coaster. Number 41 is the exact same ride, but at a different park and with a slightly different theme. That's right, it's Surf Dog at Kings Island. I like it for the same reasons as Pipe Scream, but I put this one over it because I rode this one before Pipe Scream, and I like the theme on this one better. Plus, it's not sitting next to this piece of crap like Pipe Scream is. I'm sorry, Pipe Scream, for having to be next to this bully all these years. I hope things get better for you in the future. Number 40. We're finally out of the kitties. Well, that took a while. I've ridden quite a few kitties. Anyways, number 40 is the Racer Red Side at Kings Island. This is a fun ride overall. You're racing, you're going over some hills, you go through a really long turnaround, and then go through some more hills. I mean, you can't really make fun of it because, I mean, it was the first coaster at Kings Island and the layouts were just like that back then. But the newer coasters are just better. Plus, this ride definitely shows age because it's pretty rough, but it only hurts a little bit. Unlike that other dual coaster, Cedar Point, that starts with a G and ends with an I. I hate Gemini. Number 39 is the Racer at Kings Island. Again, only this time it's the blue side. I only put this side higher because I remember it being less rough, turns into the turnaround instead of going straight, and the blue side wins. So, yeah. I mean, I did ride the red side 3 years after riding the blue side, so that could be a factor into why it was rougher, but you never know. Number 38 is Backlot Stunt Coaster at Kings Island. This ride is a launch family coaster, and it's jerky, not that thrilling, and definitely not the best ride in the world. That being said, I do think the theming is cool. Overall, though, the ride isn't that great. Now, we're going to leave Kings Island for a bit and head over to Cedar Point for number 37, which is Corkscrew at Cedar Point. This ride is also short like the Barnstormer. Well, not quite that short, but it's still short. Plus, this ride actually packs some thrills by having a vertical loop and double corkscrew as the finale. It's short, kind of jerky because of it being old, and the double corkscrew looks cool walking down the path. And the roughness, honestly, isn't that bad. Overall, solid ride. First coaster to go upside down 3 times. So, it's a cool ride. And we're going back to Kings Island for number 36, which is Adventure Express at Kings Island. This is a fun ride. I always enjoy it. But it is a family coaster, though, so it isn't that thrilling. Plus, the lift hill at the end is kind of disappointing because you're going up and waiting in anticipation for quite possibly the best part of the ride, and you think you're about to drop again and go through more ride, only to find that when you get to the top, you turn right and find yourself back at the station. What a tragedy. Number 35 is Invertigo. Now, I know that the Vekoma boomerangs are pretty hated, especially with enthusiasts like me, but honestly, I like this ride. It's an inverted boomerang. It's not that rough, and going through the course backwards is a weird but amazing feeling. Although I can't give too much praise to this ride because it is just a boomerang, and there are tons of rides above this on the list that are just way better. Such as number 34, which is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Here's another ride that has a short problem. Like, come on, the ride is short. It is a fun ride, though, and I enjoy every second of it. The dark ride section is very cool. You get to go through the mine, but then you go into the second drop, and it's like a couple turns and you're done. I'm like, no! It can't be over already. Overall, good ride. Just too short. Not very thrilling. I mean, it is a family coaster, and it's definitely not worth waiting the wait it gets. I mean, for real, bro, who wants to wait 115 minutes for this thing? It doesn't make sense. You're in Magic Kingdom. There's so many other things that are way more worth your time than this is. Number 33 is Slinky Dog Dash at Disney World's Hollywood Studios. This is kind of in the same boat as Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I mean, it's a family coaster. It's sort of short, and it gets unnecessarily long wait times. Only thing is, it's just a better ride than Seven Dwarfs. I like Toy Story. This is a launch coaster, and it has a little bit of airtime too. Anyways, we're going to leave Disney now and go back to Cedar Point for number 32, which is Blue Streak at Cedar Point. This ride actually surprised me. It's got basically the same layout as the Racer at Kings Island. You know, it's an out and back layout, a bunch of simple hills, a turn, more hills, and you're done. But this ride was actually a lot of fun. With it being the oldest roller coaster at Cedar Point, I thought it would be rougher. But we already know who the roughness award goes to here. This ride wasn't painful at all, and actually it had that old lovable bumpy wooden coaster feel to it. And it was actually faster and had more airtime than I expected. Plus it's next to the water. Overall, great ride. Number 31 is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. This ride is fun. It is just a family coaster, but it's still a great classic Disney ride. It's really long too. 2 pro tips. You enthusiasts already know to ride in the back, but that's especially true for this ride because it'll give you the best ride. Trust me. And those who like the front, it's not worth it for this ride because there's a big old train in front of you the whole time, which ruins the point of being in the front anyway because people like it because you can see everything. But the back has the most forces and you can actually see better in the back anyway. Also, ride with somebody. Last time we went, I was by myself and the seats aren't separated at all. It's one long seat, so I was sliding all over the place. It was especially bad on sharp turns. Anyways, all that to say, this is a great ride, but it's not enough to crack the top 30. It just barely missed it. Speaking of the top 30, we're heading into the top 30. Number 30 is Space Mountain at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. This ride used to be one of my favorites, but it's kind of gone down over the years since I've ridden better things. Don't get me wrong, this is a great ride and it is also a classic. Definitely the best mountain ride in Magic Kingdom. But you can definitely tell its age. It's kind of old and janky. I do like how it feels faster than it really is. I like being in the dark. I also don't like how the supports are so close, so I feel like I have to duck. That's just me though, because I'm not a big fan of head chopper moments. Overall, this is definitely a quality ride and a classic Disney attraction for sure. Number 29 is Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood. When we went to Dollywood back when I was 10 years old, I freaking loved this ride. I loved it so much that instead of going over to ride Wild Eagle, I chickened out and then rode Fire Chaser Express again instead. Now, I ultimately regretted this decision because I still to this day have not rode Wild Eagle or even Lightning Rod. But this isn't about those. This is about Fire Chaser. Even though this is a family coaster, it is a really fun ride, especially the part where it launches you backwards. This ride is very smooth and very fun. I can't put this up any higher though because there's just much more that are better than it, including number 28, which is the Beast at Kings Island. Well, if you're like me and don't like short rides, well, here's your ride. This is the longest wooden coaster in the world, and it is fast, low to the ground, and it goes to the woods, and it's a great long ride. However, it is pretty rough though, although I am speaking from riding before the retrack because I haven't ridden the retracked version yet. I actually went to Kings Island the day before it reopened after the retrack. I was kind of disappointed about that. I will probably be going back this year, and we'll get to ride it then. I'm sure the retracked version will cause this ride to go up my list because it's a really good and long ride. Just a rough one. But not quite Gemini rough though. Number 27 is Mystery Mine at Dollywood. This is a really cool ride. You get to go through this mine and you go through lots of fun elements. Keep in mind, I also rode the old version of this ride because it was about 6 years ago when I rode this. So that one element got taken out. I got to ride that part. The finale is also so good on this ride. You got the fire to the beyond vertical drop to the double barrel roll and drop back into the station. It is a really amazing finale. This is definitely a cool ride, but not enough to beat the other coasters above it on this list. Number 26 is Magnum XL 200. Yes, this might be controversial to put this here, and here's why. This is a really fun ride, I admit, but I couldn't put this on my top 25 because of the pain I experienced on this ride. Sure, this definitely wasn't as bad as Gemini, but the airtime hills after the turnaround kind of hurt my legs. They just kept launching me up and boom, hit my legs. Boom, again. Boom, again. This made it harder to enjoy, along with the classic aerodynamics awkward transitions. Other than that, it is a good ride, and I wish I could put it higher, but it's just not enough to crack the top 25. I blame Gemini for the pain I experienced on this ride. Okay, here we go. We're halfway. That was the bottom half of this list. Now we're off to the top half of this list. Sitting at the bottom of the top half is number 25, which is Thunderhead Dollywood. This ride is a good ride. I do remember it being very full of G-forces that 10-year-old me was not ready for. I remember I didn't really like how strong the G-forces were, especially the positives and laterals. But I do know that with my today's standards, I would eat those G-forces up. But since I haven't rode this since I was 10, I can't accurately determine where this would end up. So I put it in the middle of the road. Definitely need to go back to Dollywood again sometime so I can ride this thing again, along with Lightning Rod, Wild Eagle, Dragonfly, Tennessee Tornado, and Big Bear Mountain. Because I know it's probably a great ride. I mean, come on, it's a GCI Woody, and GCI Woodies are fire. But for now, this is where I have to put it. Number 24 is the Bat at Kings Island. This ride is really good, 100%. This ride just also has a short problem. It's a thrilling, smooth ride, but I wish it was longer. I wish it was as long as its freaking chain lift, bro. Yes, the chain lift is just like the Beast. Very slow. Overall, though, this is a great ride. Number 23 is Iron Dragon at Cedar Point. I know you're probably thinking, but Jaden, the Bat is a lot more forceful. It's faster, and I think that you should put the Bat in front of Iron Dragon. Well, yes, this is true that the Bat is more forceful and it is faster. And by the way, if you didn't know, these two coasters are the same type of rides, but with different layouts. But there was something about Iron Dragon to where I just enjoyed it more than I did the Bat. For one, it's a lot longer of a ride, especially since it has two chain lifts. But it also feels more scenic, and the water feature at the end is super cool. Plus, that moment actually has some decent forces. Like, I remember the feeling the blood rushed to my feet on this part. This ride is just a really good ride. Please don't get rid of this anytime soon. If you want to get rid of something, get rid of... You already know what I'm going to say. Gemini. Ooh, look, it's our first SeaWorld coaster. Number 22 is Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. The fact that my lowest ranked SeaWorld coaster is in the top 25 is saying something. Well, I didn't ride that one Sesame Street roller coaster or Journey into Atlantis, but still. Icebreaker is SeaWorld's newest coaster, soon not to be. And it's technically considered a family coaster, which is kind of surprising because this is definitely borderline. I was fortunate enough to get the back, so I felt the whole backwards beyond vertical spike. Talk about airtime. Goodness gracious. Then you make it over the hill on your second forward launch, and it moves through this course. It's an amazing layout. Now it is a little bit on the shorter side, but honestly, I can't complain. This is a very well made coaster. Number 21 is Flight of Fear at Kings Island. This is another ride where I can't exactly remember how I felt about it because it's been a while. But I do remember this being a really fun ride. I like to think of it as a cross between Rock and Roller Coaster and Space Mountain because it's that looping coaster that launches you into the dark, but it's also space themed and there's stars all around you. This ride, the ride operators definitely have a lot of fun with this ride. I remember the ride operator said once while we were close to getting on, "We're launching in 5, 4, 3," and without finishing, he just launched it. I thought it was pretty funny. This launch is a pretty fun and intense launch. The elements are good from what I remember, and this is just overall a good ride. And it has some good theming too, especially for a Cedar Fair park. Actually, I think this is built when the park was owned by Paramount, but still. This UFO goes crazy. Wow. Here we go. We're heading to the top 20. We'll kick this off with Expedition Everest at Disney World's Animal Kingdom as our number 20. You can't go wrong with this ride. It's really an amazing ride. This is definitely the best mountain ride in Disney World. You go through Mount Everest on a train and find yourself stuck because the track was ripped up by the Yeti. Oh no, what do? We go backwards. Oh no, the Yeti ripped up some more track. Let's get out of here. That's when you go into the big drop. The really big, enormous, record breaker, 80-foot drop. Man, I should make a coaster parody on this ride. All jokes aside, though, This is definitely a top tier Disney ride. It's got a great storyline, there's lots of detail, and it's pretty thrilling too. Fun fact, it's actually the second most expensive roller coaster in the world. Overall, it's a great ride and arguably the best ride in Animal Kingdom. Number 19 is the only defunct ride on this entire list. RIP Vortex at Kings Island. This is a great ride. It's very scenic too. Well, it was. I love the elements on this ride. Fun fact, this was the first coaster to go upside down 6 times. And I loved every single one of them. It was a record breaker. I love Vortex and I was so sad to see it go. I'm sure they'll put something amazing in its place though. Number 18 is Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney World's Hollywood Studios. This ride is the best roller coaster in all of Disney World. Well, it used to be. This ride is pure fun. It's kind of like Fight of Fear at Kings Island, but just better. That launch is intense and thrilling. There's music on the ride from Aerosmith, by the way. It's just overall a great ride. The theming is great. You're rushing to a concert. It's fun. Only problem I have with it is that it's a bit of a headbanger. I always come off this ride with a headache, and it's a little bit on the shorter side, but I can't complain though. I love this ride. Number 17 is Rougarou at Cedar Point. This is a B&M floorless coaster, which those types of rides always give me a headache, but I stopped caring about that because it usually goes away pretty quick. This ride has some great elements, a great color scheme, a good amount of length/ride time, and the greatest name for a roller coaster in the entire world. I mean, come on. You gotta love its name. Rougarou. Say it. It's fun to say, isn't it? Number 16 is Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. Oh, Kraken. Boy, do I have a story to tell for this ride. That's a story for another time, though, because that was while we were waiting in line. The ride itself, however, is awesome. It's another B&M floorless, just like Rougarou, only better. It's faster, taller, has better elements, and has more theming-ish. Again, floorless coasters always give me headaches, but honestly, I stopped caring at this point. Also, I like the part where you get eaten by the Kraken. This coaster is cool. It has some good elements, and it is a great ride. Number 15, Burger King Foot Lettuce. The Incredible Hulk Coaster at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. This ride also gives me a headache, just like the other 3 coasters that we just went through. But I'll say it again. I don't care, because it doesn't bother me much and it goes away quickly. I think this is the last ride on this list that gives me a headache. Phew. All that was starting to give me a headache. Get it? Enough about that stuff though. Let's talk about this amazing ride. It launches you up the lift hill and out of the tunnel, and then you go straight into a 0G roll. A 0G roll into the first drop. Wow, it starts off amazing already. This ride has some great elements. It's a decently long ride. It's themed to the Incredible Hulk, and it plays some epic music on the ride. The music always makes the ride better. This ride is legitness. Number 14 is Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. The Gatekeeper watches to make sure you are eligible to enter the park, and if not, he swoops down, picks you up, and drops you into Lake Erie. When I say eligible, I mean you gotta have your ticket. This ride is a wing coaster, and it's cool because it goes through the keyholes above the park entrance. It really is a grand entrance. It's too bad this isn't even a top 5 Cedar Point coaster. I will say, this ride is amazing and very smooth, but it is pretty underwhelming, and that's for only one reason. It's at Cedar Point. Literally, you could put this ride at almost any other park and it would be a star attraction. But Cedar Point just has too many good coasters for this to be a star attraction at the park. Again, I'm not saying it's not a good ride, because believe me, this ride is amazing, and it doesn't give me a headache. This ride is more about looking cool at the front of the park, though, than being a top-tier Cedar Point coaster, that's all. And believe me, it does look really cool. That being said, this is still a great ride, and it deserves a spot in my top 15. The drop is cool because you twist and go down, and all the elements are cool too, especially going through the keyholes. Now, we're on to the elite coasters. These are the coasters that are top tier on this list. These are the coasters that took thrills to the next level. The coasters that are just pure fun. The coasters that are fast, smooth, don't hurt you, don't give you a headache, aren't underwhelming at all, but absolutely blow me away. This is the Elite 13. To kick off the Elite 13, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Disney World's Epcot. Remember when I said Rock and Roller Coaster used to be the best coaster in Disney World? Well, this is the one that tops it and is actually my favorite ride in Disney World altogether. This thing absolutely blew me away. The theming was insane, and it's the first coaster of its kind. Now, I can't say anything because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I will say I would call this elite because it's so good. Absolutely blew me away. You have to ride this if you go to Epcot. This was my 50th credit, by the way, and boy, that 50th credit was a banger. Number 12 is Raptor at Cedar Point. This ride, woohoo! This ride is good. Hold up. This ride is good. This is the ride we waited the longest for at Cedar Point, but it was worth it for sure. This is a B&M invert, and it's good. It's also one of the 4 coasters at Cedar Point themed to a bird. The other ones being Gatekeeper, which we already went over, Skyhawk, and something else that we'll get to later. Right now, we're talking about this bird-themed coaster. This ride is long, has lots of great elements, and is intense. Especially the double helix at the end. Boy, you really feel that in your feet. Plus, it's a B&M invert. B&M inverts are awesome. Speaking of B&M inverts, number 11 is Banshee at Kings Island. Bro, it breaks my heart to have this coaster outside of the top 10. It really does. It hurts. This is my very first big coaster. I rode it when I was 8 years old. This was my number 1 for a very long time. It's a very sentimental ride for me. Unfortunately, it's out of the top 10 now. What a shame. But let's talk about the good things. This coaster is awesome. I love it. Fun fact, this ride actually hits top speed in the second half of the ride because it goes down into the ravine. The elements are great. The color scheme goes crazy. And this ride is super fun. But it's not top 10 worthy anymore. Speaking of the top 10, we're in the top 10. Final stretch, y'all. Let's kick this off with number 10, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. You want to talk about out of control? This ride is out of control. This thing is crazy. You get lots of ejector airtime. It's fast, low to the ground, and it's a pretty long ride. And then you arrive at the shed. Don't go in there. Too bad. We don't have a choice. I know the shed was a little disappointing at first for a lot of people, but honestly, I'm not complaining at all. I like the shed. Honestly, I think it's super cool. It's a lot better than just going back to the station. Take notes, Adventure Express. Overall, this ride definitely blew me away and definitely deserves the top 10. I honestly almost put Banshee over this ride, but that's because I'm Banshee biased. But I had to wake up and realize that I can't be Banshee biased because this is a better ride. It just is. Number 9 is Mako at SeaWorld. Oh yes, a B&M Hyper. Gotta love B&M Hypers. And this is a good one, for sure. Well, I've only rode 2, but that's not the point. This coaster is a great ride. It's fast, smooth, and it's thrilling. It's got lots of great floater airtime as well. And this ride has water around it, so you have a beautiful view around you. Definitely a scenic ride and definitely elite. Number 8 is that other B&M Hyper I've ridden. This is the better one of the 2 though, and that is Diamondback at Kings Island. It has lots of floater airtime. It's a long ride, and that splashdown at the end goes crazy. It's super cool. This ride is flat out amazing. This also was a number 1 coaster for me at some point. That was until I went to Cedar Point for the first time. This coaster is definitely top 10 worthy in my credit list. The reason it is better than Mako, it's taller, faster, has better airtime, and more. The only thing Mako has in Diamondback is the color scheme, but we're not ranking these based on color. This ride is 100% elite. Number 7 is Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. This is definitely the best coaster at SeaWorld. This is the first B&M flying coaster I've ever ridden in my life. And man, this model is awesome. Gosh, I've said B&M a lot in this video. I've ridden quite a few B&Ms. One thing I really like about this ride that I haven't experienced on any other coaster is the pretzel loop. This is easily the most intense part of the ride. I mean, just look at this. You go upside down, going down instead of up. It feels weird, but it's super cool though. This ride also likes to get real close to everything. Like, I thought we were about to run into some tree branches, and it dips down by the water and splashes and gets close to the ground. It's such an awesome ride from the moment you raise up into the flying position all the way to when you're let down from that position. Heck, I even loved when we were stopped in the final brake run just hanging there in the flying position. This ride is amazing and definitely elite. Number 6 is Valravn at Cedar Point. This ride has probably my favorite drop on any roller coaster I've ridden. This thing hangs you there at the top over 200 feet in the air, looking straight down for 4 seconds before dropping you at a completely vertical drop. The drop is crazy, and that's the star element of a B&M dive coaster. Hey, there's that B&M again. Another one. Moving on from the drop, the elements throughout the rest of the ride are awesome. The first Sidewinder is an amazing inversion, and the rest of the elements are too. It's fast, tall, smooth, and most definitely elite. Oh my goodness. We're in the top 5, y'all. The top 10%. The best of the best. The ones that blew me away to infinity. Here we go. Number 5 is Orion at Kings Island. This ride is 100% the best ride at Kings Island. I know there were a lot of complaints about Kings Island doing the bare minimum with this ride, and how it just barely classifies as a giga coaster because the height is 287 feet, but the drop is 300 feet because it drops down into the ravine. And the ride is shorter than other gigas, but bro, honestly, if you just stop complaining about it and just ride it, this thing is freaking amazing. This just goes to show that even the bare minimum for a giga coaster is still a freaking awesome ride. Like, this thing is legit. I also like that there is some theming to it as well. It's definitely not like Disney or Universal level theming, but it's still cool that Cedar Fair put in some theming for this ride and even made a whole new area called Area 72. The airtime on this ride is awesome. The wave turn, well, doesn't do anything airtime wise, but it's still awesome. Everything about this ride is phenomenal. The first drop is incredible. The ride is smooth, fast, and full of airtime. This ride is elite and deserves a seat in my top 5. Just not at the top of the top 5. Because number 4 is Millenium Force at Cedar Point. This is the other giga coaster in my list that is better than Orion. Here's why. Well, it's taller, faster, longer, cooler, drop is better. It has a great view of Lake Erie and has better airtime. The first giga was a banger. The overbank turn after the first drop is epic, and the whole ride itself is just so good. This is what happens when you don't do the bare minimum on a giga. It's better than the bare minimum. That's just how it is. It's the best giga coaster I've ever ridden. Spoiler alert, there's no more gigas on this list. This ride is amazing and for sure is elite. 3 more left. Here we go. We're on to the top 3. We're on the podium. It's time to find out who is on the bottom of the podium. Number 3 is Maverick at Cedar Point. Maverick is such a good ride. It may be 3 times smaller than the height of Millenium Force, but man, this coaster whips you around like crazy. This thing is wild. I mean, it isn't Frontier Town, so it must be wild. The pacing is amazing. This coaster launches you up the lift hill and goes down a drop that is 5 degrees beyond vertical. And boy, you can feel those extra 5 degrees. The second launch is also amazing. That's the launch that really gets you going. The inversions are also crazy as well. This ride is all over the place. This ride is very picture perfect as well. Overall, it's an amazing ride. It's elite! Elite! Moving on to the next coaster on the podium. Number 2 is... You might be a little shocked by this one. Honestly, especially a lot of you enthusiasts out there. Number 2 is... Don't hate me for this. Number 2 is... Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Wait, Jaden. That's not your number 1? How? This ride is flawless. You know what? I agree that this ride is flawless. But my number 1 is flawless and more. Steel Vengeance is a perfect coaster. This is my first and only RMC I've ever ridden, and man, it's the best Cedar Point coaster without a doubt. I can definitely see why everyone always has it on their number 1 all of the time. This coaster has amazing airtime. It actually, fun fact, has the record for the most airtime on any roller coaster. This coaster is wild and all over the place, and it's a long ride. I love every second of this ride. This thing is incredible and it's freaking elite. But bro, there's one coaster that takes it all. Only one coaster can have the crown, the trophy, the $1 million prize. You get the point. It's at the top of the podium. Drum roll, please. Number 1 is the Great Pumpkin Coaster. Wait, hold on. That's my number 1 least favorite ride. Sorry, let's try that again. Wrong list. Drum roll, please. The winner of my top 50 coasters. The one who blew me out of the water. The coaster that is perfect in every way. Number 1 is Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. First off, just look at this ride. It's beautiful. This thing combines everything you could want on a roller coaster. It has 2 launches, a 140-foot drop, insane airtime. It goes upside down. It's smooth. It's a fairly long ride, and it has great theming. How could this get any better? The color scheme is also great. I like the black track. The second launch on the ride is crazy too. You get launched up this massive hill and get some of the greatest airtime you'll ever experience on a roller coaster. And we got to experience in the magical back row. You heard that right. The back row. Trust me, if you sit in the back, the airtime is even more intense. It's so good. You plummet down the 140-foot drop into a 0G stall, then a lot of airtime moments, a heartline roll, and more. This coaster is so freaking good, and it is absolutely, positively, 100% elite. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this list in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. JEH Unashamed, out.
Jesus is my king, and his love is on fire like a spicy chicken wing. May the spirit get me going, and I'm not afraid to sing. So I'm gonna